Ever get that feeling like you're going through the motions, but your mind is a million miles away?
Oh, absolutely. You're right there. Like you're not really present, not really living.
Exactly. And that's what The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle really dives into. Honestly, though, this book can be a bit of a beast to unpack on your own.
It's true. It's profound, for sure. Potentially life-changing even, but it's dense.
Yeah.
And that's why this deep dive is so valuable. We're here to break it down, give you the highlights, those aha moments.
Love it. Music to my ears because, let me tell you, I'm ready for some aha moments. And the thing is, Tully, he doesn't waste any time. He jumps right in and he's like, most of our suffering, we inflicted on ourselves.
Yeah.
And not in a blame yourself kind of way, but because we're so entangled with our own thoughts, we don't even realize it.
He's not afraid to call it like it is, the elephant in the room. Or should we say the thought bubble in our heads?
Right.
Our mind, they're constantly pulling us into the past or worrying about the future, and we totally miss out on what's actually happening the present moment.
And what's wild is he had this like intense, almost out-of-body experience where he realizes, I can't live with myself any longer.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Heavy stuff. But it was this realization that there was a separate, like observing the constant chatter of the self.
Mhm.
And that's how he realized we are not our minds.
Exactly. It's like he's highlighting something we inherently know but rarely acknowledge. We often feel like, I am my thoughts, but there's a deeper awareness there beyond the thinking.
I like that, yeah. And to make this point, he uses this analogy. He's like, the mind is like a dog that loves chewing bones.
Oh, I like that. Even if the bone is old and useless, right, maybe it's a problem we've already solved or a problem that doesn't even exist. Our minds latch on and won't let go.
And it gets even more interesting. Tolle doesn't just say our thoughts are often pointless. He argues that 80 to 90% of them, they're actually harmful.
Whoa. Okay, now that's a big statement.
Yeah, think about that for a second, really.
Yeah.
What if most of our mental energy is like anxieties, worries, that negative self-talk?
It's like we're constantly sabotaging ourselves without even realizing it. We just go through our days on autopilot, letting our mind run wild. So if this attachment to these thoughts is the problem, what's the solution? Okay, so we've identified the culprit here, our runaway minds. But now for the million-dollar question, what's the antidote? Like, is there even one? Well, and that's where the power of now really shines.
Yeah.
It's not about, like, stopping our thoughts altogether.
Yeah, good luck with that. Right.
Right, honestly. It's more about shifting our focus
Yeah.
to the only place where peace and, like, true fulfillment exists.
It's okay.
The present moment.
The present moment, yeah, because dwelling on the past, it's like carrying around all this baggage you can never unpack.
Yeah, exactly.
And stressing about the future, it's like we're borrowing trouble, and we might not even need to.
Totally.
But how do we actually do that? Escape the time warp and tap into the now?
Well, Tolle, he really emphasizes the joy of being as a kind of compass, Imagine if you're always feeling drained or heavy.
Yeah.
It might be a sign that you're like stuck in these mental reruns of the past
Right.
or anxieties about the future. But when something brings you joy, a sense of lightness or ease,
Yeah.
that's probably it aligning you with the present moment.
I love that. Using joy as a guidepost. Like those moments when you're so absorbed in something you love, you totally lose track of time.
Exactly.
There's no overthinking. You're just there.
You're just present. And you know what's fascinating? Tolle talks about how this idea of being present, this connection to the now, it's not new. Spiritual masters throughout history, they've been pointing to this all along,
Yeah.
But it's like it's become a forgotten art in our modern world in a way.
It's like this hidden superpower we've always had. We just need to figure out how to use it. But let's be real, just deciding to be more present, that doesn't magically just silence all the noise, does it?
You're hitting on a really crucial point. It's not always easy, you're right. And Tolle, he doesn't shy away from that. He talks about these obstacles that we encounter on this path to presence.
Right.
And one of the most, I think, pervasive ones is what he calls the pain body.
Oh, yes, the pain body. He
Yeah.
describes it like this accumulation of past negative experiences that we're kind of unknowingly carrying around with us.
Like a shadow self, almost.
Yeah.
And just like a shadow, it can feel incredibly real and powerful. And Tolle uses this really vivid imagery.
Oh,
He
yeah.
talks about the pain body almost like it's this separate entity,
Hmm.
almost like this grumpy house guest that just never leaves,
Yeah.
and it feeds on negativity. It wants us to stay stuck in these old hurts and these dramas
Yeah.
to justify its own existence.
It wants company in its misery.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So how do we evict this unwelcome guest? How do we stop identifying with our pain and break free? So we've got this pain body clinging to us, determined to keep us stuck in the land of what ifs and if onlys. How do we break free? Tolle must have some ninja moves for dealing with this,
He
right?
does, and it might surprise you. Tolle says that even in those difficult moments, those limit situations that feel heavy and inescapable, there's an opportunity for awakening.
Okay, that sounds a bit counterintuitive. You mean those times when it feels like life is throwing everything it has at us? How can those possibly be a good thing?
It's about choosing surrender over resistance. Imagine a Zen master named Banzan walking through a market. He stops at a butcher shop and asks, "Show me your best piece of meat." The butcher smiles and says, "Every piece of meat I have is the best." Banzan, upon hearing this, becomes enlightened.
Wait, what? That's it? He became enlightened because a butcher believed in his meat. Help me understand this.
It's not about the meat itself, but the butcher's perspective. By declaring every piece the best, he's demonstrating a radical acceptance of what is. This resonates with Tolle's message. When we stop resisting and fully embrace the present moment, even the seemingly bad ones become opportunities for growth.
Okay, so it's about shifting our perspective, finding the best in every moment, even the messy ones. But how do we actually put that into practice?
Tolle offers a lot of practical advice on integrating this idea of presence into our daily lives. One thing that stands out is his emphasis on not giving our full attention to the external world.
So, not getting completely sucked into the nonstop news cycle or losing ourselves in social media. Guilty as charged.
It's about finding a balance. Tolle suggests we hold back a bit of our attention, even a tiny amount, and direct it inwards. It's like cultivating a quiet observer within, a place of stillness amidst the chaos.
I can see how that could be helpful, but our minds are slippery, aren't they? They love to wander, especially towards negativity. Any tips on how to deal with that?
Remember those ducks we talked about earlier? The ones who shake off a squabble and return to a peaceful state. Tolle uses them as an example of how to handle negativity. We can learn to observe those thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them. Just acknowledge them and let them go, like ducks shaking off water.
That's a great visual. I'm going to try that next time I'm spiraling. Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask about relationships. Does Tolle address those?
Absolutely. He believes that relationships can be incredible catalysts for growth, but only when we approach them from a place of presence. It's not about relying on someone else for our happiness, but allowing the relationship to make us more conscious.
You mean using the challenges and joys of relationships as opportunities to become more aware and present? That's a powerful way to look at it. There's so much packed into this book. It's definitely one to revisit. There's this quote from Tolle that keeps echoing in my mind. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the end now the primary focus of your life. It's simple, yet so profound.
And as you continue to explore the power of now in your own life, remember Tolle's words. If the mind is running your life, you're living in a state of fear. But by tapping into the present moment, you can step out of that fear and discover a peace and joy that's always available right here, right now.